Hey, welcome back to the Twisted, Bent, and Exhausted Entrepreneur Podcast. This is where if your mind is bent, twisted, or shaped out or out of shape, you've come to the right place. My name is Jeff Harrison, along with
Leslie Spoor.
and we're excited to share ideas from, I would say years, but it's more like decades of experience and wisdom. And I feel like I'm a data miner because this is part two of how we talked to Leslie, and we've been extracting gold from her brain about how policies, procedures, and organization are really the foundation of building a business that's going to last, and not only last, but grow and not grow into headaches and trauma for you, but really make your life much easier. Leslie just got back from a big vacation. The whole time she said she didn't take her laptop, her iPad. She checked messages now and then. She came back and the business was still flourishing. And that's all because of policies, procedures, and organization. So, Leslie, you are the epitome of where people want to be.
Well, I hope so. I've worked really hard to get here. And I want them to be there. I want them to be here. That's really the whole point of this podcast and my training and the concierge business solutions is to help other people get where you and I are without having to reinvent the wheel or suffer all the bloody noses and bruises and bumps that we went through, right? There's just really no reason for it. Not when you have experience like there is available to you today. I mean, it's just silly. So,
well, in the construction world, especially a carpenter, what do they say? Measure twice, cut once. And some people are out there cutting, and they're like just eyeballing it and wondering why they're wasting so much wood or pipe or electrical cord. It doesn't make any difference. But if you say, hey, let me plug into a system that is proven to work, and not just for one business, but for, I'm going to say, probably in your career, hundreds of businesses.
Yeah, easily. Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to dispel one mindset before we jump into the rest of our questions today, because this is part two. If you missed part one, make sure to go back and get that because it's invaluable. It doesn't mean it's one is out of order. If you listen to this first and then go back to the other one, but get both of them under your belt because it'll make a difference. But one of the things that was a myth, it's an urban legend, is my business is unique. And what you're telling me, yeah, it's not. It's not. There are core fundamentals, and yes, there may be some unique issues, but running a business, as Leslie said in part one, is running a business. Yeah. And that's just what it's like. Oh, well, that electrical cord is different. It might be, but the deal is it plugs in one end and plugs in the other end. If you don't have those two, there's no current.
It's so true. I wish I had a nickel for every time I heard, yeah, but my business is different. Yeah, but I'm like, oh my God, business is business, and that's one of the things that I focus on. Okay, is industry best practices and basics and fundamentals for any business. It doesn't matter. Like we talked last time about, I taught at Cal State Northridge for just 5 semesters, but it was enlightening for me as well as the students I was working with, right? And every one of the people that were in there had a different kind of business they worked in. I had a guy that made ties. Did you know how many times ties change a year? I mean, the thickness, the width, the length, the fabrics. I mean, they change constantly. I had no idea. And wow. the guy that made bagels and the guy that worked in manufacturing making shovels. I had a guy with shovels that was having a problem. He was trying to beat his competitor, kept beating him out every time because he was delivering faster than he could, and we solved that problem. So it doesn't matter what you make, what kind of service you provide. Business fundamentals are business fundamentals, and there's all kinds of things available to a business owner that they don't know when they first start out. They're working in a vacuum. They don't have anybody really to talk to, and so attending or listening to these podcasts or watching these podcasts or doing my training course, which I'm really, I know it sounds self-serving and it sounds like I'm trying to pitch the training course, and I guess I kind of am, only because it is so valuable for all. You've seen it, so
Hmm.
you know, um, it covers all of the scope of building a business that can be successful. I can, I can't promise it because then somebody's going to come back and say, but you promised. But if you follow what I tell you to do to some extent, each piece of that, you're going to build a good business. And you know the statistics, what, half or more of all businesses fail in the first year, and more than that fail in the second year.
Yeah.
I've been in business now 20. How many for you? A long time.
15.
15. That's for myself. That is not my career of being a consultant and working as, all the different positions in aerospace. But, together we've got a lot of experience in building a successful business. I didn't even know my business was successful for a really long time. Did you? Never occurred to me. I just kept putting one foot in front of the other, day after day after day, keep doing it, keep chugging along. And all of a sudden I went, wait a minute, it's been 15 years. I guess I'm successful. So,
Well,
yeah.
when you talk about that, it's like it's always the mindset of an entrepreneur is, I know I'll be successful when, but we keep changing the horizon. It's like chasing the sunset. You'll never get to the horizon. It's always moving. Well, over the weekend, I was challenged with cleaning up my office. I'm usually very organized outside of my office, but sometimes I'll just set it over there. And so I was challenged with that. And I was going back to it, I'm like, why am I keeping all these old bank statements from 2014, 2018, 2019? I'm
Really?
like, it's ridiculous, especially when everything is online. Well, I started looking at the balances and I got very proud because I looked at what I was doing back then as a fairly new business and what it's compared to now. And I actually took it out and showed my wife. I'm like, I didn't say, hey, I've made it, but it's kind of cool that there was a
Yeah.
line in the sand and now this is where it is. It was kind of fun to see that. So I think it's okay to do that now and then.
I do that when I do demos. I go back because the data in my essential elements is maintained in perpetuity. So I'll
Mm.
go back and say, we have a thing that tracks how many hours per month you actually sell. Not how many you work, I have that too, but how many you sell, which is a
Mm.
great metric to measure, to watch year over year, the same month and the same, like every January for years in a row, how much are you selling each month? And when you go back to the very beginning in 2007, it's something like three. And then I think last month it was like 400 and something. I mean, you know what?
Wow.
I don't know how many it was, but um, it's like you watch the growth of your business. And I also know from that metric that, which metrics are very important in your business as well, that we were growing year over year in the same month for four. I only watched it for 4 years in a row. The same month, year over year, was more growing every month, which is what you want to see.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't very long before my accountant said to me, your overhead is going down, but your profit margins are going up. That is not
Oh,
how
you
this
hate to hear
normally works.
that.
I know. I know. I said, wasn't that what you're supposed to do? Well, yeah, but nobody does that. Like, yes, it's possible to do that. It
Yeah.
is very much possible. So, and people don't, there's so many things that little tips and tricks and whatnot, things that you can do that people don't realize, and policies and procedures definitely one of those, and I think absolutely necessary to have a successful business if you want to work on your business and not in it. you
Well, I
know
want to go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you just build a job for yourself, and I say that that is absolutely there is value and honor in building a job for yourself. You're independent, you have autonomy, you don't have to listen to anybody else. There's lots of good things. My husband was a one bucket shop for years. That's what we call that, one bucket. It was he who did all the work, and he never hired employees. He'd
Mm.
hire a helper from time to time, but never employees because he didn't want the headache of it. And it is a headache.
Yeah.
It's a good headache, but it's still a headache. But it depends on what your long term goal is. So he was a one bucket shop and was very successful. But when he stopped working, or if he didn't work, if he took the weekend off, his business stopped, right? Just stopped. Me, on the other hand, and you, because you have employees also, yeah, we have the headache of employees and it can be challenging, but if we go away for the weekend or 2 weeks, like I just did, the business keeps running,
Yeah.
right? And it keeps growing. And I was so proud of one of my people. I saw an email. We had a client come back and question a process,
Mm.
and I didn't jump into it. I just let it go, see what happened. And she answered it so well. I was so proud of her. It was the perfect it was a Leslie response. It was what I would have
Ah.
said. I've either corrupted her or trained her really well. I don't know which,
Yeah.
but she did it perfectly. I was so proud. And so, and that's why you have policies and procedures so that you can teach your employees to think like you do, so that you can um, keep the quality level of what you're doing. And that's not to say that they've lost their personality or anything like that. They're still who they are. They still have their own personalities, but they understand better the purpose of the business and how we want it to operate, right? And
Absolutely.
so that's how that went.
Well, I want to just share an example of, and then we'll jump into today's part two questions of how important it is to measure data. I'll give an example of a client that we brought on board back in 2019, and we look at their metrics, let's say for their website. And they were averaging about 300 people a month coming to the website, and they wanted to grow their business. We noticed we're a content marketing company, so we create content for them, and we saw it steadily grow up, and it grew to the point where their total average monthly traffic was between 8,500 and 10,000. It would top out at about 10,000.
Wow.
Yeah, and during that time, the business 5x'd, and that's all they did. They shut down their TV advertising, did no radio, no direct. That's all we did, and so it was real easy to point a direct line at that. Well, then the owner sold the business. Congratulations for him. And a new owner came in, and they brought in a young man who said, "We're going to do our marketing in house." And I was helping him with a little bit. And I finally said, "This isn't working out for me." So I stepped aside. And in 8 months, while this young man was doing this, he built a new website. And when he did this, all the content he
No.
didn't move over,
Oh.
and it decimated, literally decimated that business. It went from record sales down to, and because the new owner thought, okay, this is what I have, he went out and expanded and bought a new location and did all this stuff, and then all of a sudden it dropped off, and it was because his digital footprint disappeared. It's almost like the lights are off and no one is home, no one saw them. And so for us, we've been rebuilding that. And there were, Leslie, there were six pieces of content, six blogs that we wrote, because we're very surgical in what we write. Six blog posts were consistently bringing in about 6,000 to 7,000 unique visitors every month to their website. Which, let's face it, those people are not going to this business's website unless they're interested in the product.
Right.
And so we're in the process of rebuilding it up, and it's not going to be an overnight thing. Although using what you're talking about, we have a process, and we're building that wall again, just like you would say, build a business. We're saying, hey, this house needs another wall. We know how to build walls. It's one brick at a time. And when you're done, it's very strong. It's just unfortunate that that's what happened with this particular company. And so we look at the metrics and say, you know, this isn't on me, but we can get you back, but it's not going to be an overnight thing. That's where measuring those things are so important.
Is that guy still there?
No, he has left.
Moved
He
on.
has left the building, folks. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I was very fortunate. I got a call 8 months later, and they said, "Please come back," because I had stepped aside, and yeah, when I saw what happened, because literally, if you've ever gone to Google Search Console or Google Analytics, and you see the traffic that's up here, and it goes like this, like really, literally a straight line, because it went from 8 to 10,000 to literally zero.
Oh my
For six
gosh.
months, it had zero traffic to that website.
I would be slitting my wrists.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
and
terrible.
this the sad part about it is the site that this young man built or had built. He didn't do it himself. It's really pretty. It was really a pretty site, but it just like what? It was a facade. I want a site that makes me money, not pretty.
Exactly.
And so anyway, uh, let's get back. Let's get back today is how policies, procedures, organizations, and are pillars of success. We've been asking Leslie, who is a pillar of policies and procedures and a foundation of organization. So let's jump in. This is let's see. I think this is our next question. In your experience, how do solid policy? Oh no,
Oh,
no,
I
this is
just
our
answered that
last
one.
question. Sorry, that was our last week's question. Some might say that systems stifle creativity. What would you say to that? And how do you create structure that leaves room for innovation? I think this is a great question because it's like, wow, I am so in the guardrails, I can't really move around. Is that really true?
No, and that's what I was saying a few minutes ago is that the people that you've trained and the procedures still allow them to have their own personality, which is really important because people want to do business with people that they know and they like. In my case, I assign an employee to a suite of clients, and our goal is to make every client feel like they're their only client. And in the course of doing that, their personality is involved, and I've got all different kinds of personalities of people, but they're super sweet, all of them. And having the procedures for them allows them to be a little freer in their personality, I would say, because they don't have to guess how to do something. They don't have to spend any time thinking about what they have to do. They just know to follow the procedure. So I think that there's if anything, having policies and procedures encourages them to have some independent thought and creativity. I know that sounds counterintuitive because I'm saying, okay, I want you to do it exactly like this. I want you to talk like this. I want you to use these words. These words are not allowed to be used. I have procedures that say, do instead of saying these words, use these words instead. And that helps them because they know what I expect from them. And we actually review different procedures every month in our staff meeting. We go over procedures again and again and again to reinforce that, because my business in particular is never the same 2 days in a row, right? It's not black and white. It takes 6 to 9 months to really get a foothold of how to work in this business, in the executive errands one. And so even though we have policies and procedures that tell them the general process, they still need to think on their own independently and say, okay, in this situation, how do I implement this process? And so they have plenty of room for innovation and creativity.
Well, I like how you say, "Hey, we review a policy or a procedure." It seems like that is an opportunity to say, as you would say, how can we improve on it? That's your room for creativity. But while you're actually in the game, this is what we want you to do. Is that is
Right.
that fair to say?
That's exactly right. And I think I mentioned in last week's episode that we redid all of our policies and procedures this year because we redid all the software.
Mm,
So while we didn't change general policies, unless something has changed in the business, you have to review them regularly because things do change. Um, I took those procedures after we marked them up and sent them to one of the employees to test them out, because
okay.
she'd been working with the new system functionality and understood how it works. And so I wanted to make sure that the procedures were written so anybody could understand it. And so, which is, like I said before, how you test procedures anyway, give it to somebody who doesn't know. In this case, she did know. So it was easy for her to spot any anomalies or misstatements, and we could have those corrected before we published the new procedures.
I love it. This next one is when a business grows quickly, and I think this happens. Things can get messy fast. How do you help companies scale without losing control or culture? Because that is a true thing. It's like all of a sudden, especially now, I'm going to say on my side of the fence, where we have AI and it can literally blow up overnight. And I've seen companies come and go right and left. and it comes to that. So how do companies, how can you help them scale without losing the control or culture?
Well, that's where policies and procedures come in and are the strongest, right? Um, and as your business, okay, so you need to document how you're doing things, but over time and as you grow, things change, and so you need to update those procedures and make sure they reflect what you're doing today. I hear all the time, I'm sure you know this, like Oprah used to do this thing, my favorite things, and she would talk about some little business somewhere that she really liked, and all of a sudden their volume would explode overnight, and it caused some of them to actually struggle, if not fail, because they couldn't keep up with demand. So when you know that you're doing some kind of, there's an opportunity for a quick increase in demand, you need to plan for that ahead and figure out how you're going to do the process around that so that you don't fail in that. Do you stock up inventory ahead of time? Do you add on extra people and get them trained before you actually have the work? My old boss, my mentor, used to call that selling with an empty bench, and I still do that today. I'll go and say yes to everything and then figure out quickly how I'm going to support it. So you can sell with an empty bench, but that means you need to have the staff available and trained in order to support increased demand so that they don't lose control. There's just another thing that you can do also is make sure, I hope you have written mission, vision, and value statements. Mission, vision, and value says who you are, what your values are, and how you plan to implement that. What sets you apart from other people that do the same. And if you want to maintain your culture, you need to review these on a regular basis. I can't tell you how many times I walk into a staff meeting and say, okay, what's the mission of the company? And watch them all go freak out right there because they forget to look at it. So you have to remind them regularly what the mission, vision, and values are. And as part of that, you have procedures to help you achieve those goals. Okay, that's the whole purpose, is maintaining your quality and achieving the goals and avoiding getting messy fast. As I've said a million times, I don't care if somebody makes a mistake, that's perfectly fine, but make one I don't already know about and one that I haven't already written a procedure for so that we have an opportunity to correct it long term. I like to write procedures.
Yeah, if you caught part one, she is a procedure writing machine. She
I
likes that
love it.
stuff.
I
Yeah.
do.
So, one of the things I love about what you talk about with procedures is a lot of times, and this is that it's a little bit of reverse psychology, if you will, or an experience for one of your staff. If they make an error, they're thinking, oh, I'm going to get in trouble. And you kind of probably get excited because you're going, oh,
I
there's an
do.
opportunity for a procedure and,
Yeah.
and a learning situation, which is so different from what we normally see out there.
Well, and you have to reinforce with your if you decide to build a business where you're going to have employees. If you look 5 years down the road when you get your business going, or I don't care if you're at 10 years and you're looking another 5 years down the road, and you say, I'm going to add on this much staff, or I want to hit this target for new clients or volume of widgets. You need to you need to plan for that and make sure that I keep losing my train of thought. I hate getting
She just
old.
needs to have
I
one
just
more
hate it.
cup
My
of
brain
coffee.
just,
One more cup of coffee.
I wish I drank coffee. Oh my goodness. My brain it gets down a path. And I think, oh, this is a really good point. And then it goes right out the window. You want to avoid things getting messy. And like you said, obviously I don't like mistakes. I mean, but they're okay to make because I can evaluate. Oh, I know what I was going to say. I was going to say you have to constantly reinforce that a mistake is not necessarily a bad thing. To me, it's a training opportunity, and it's a place where you need to help educate the person on how they avoid it and how do you document the avoidance of that mistake, right? So we do a process called follow the law when we do our absentee home care, right? We do this process primarily. What it is we come in and we literally follow the wall and open every door and run the water in rooms and stay until it's completely stopped. And dry out everything so there's no water spots, and then move on to the next place. We never leave water running anywhere. But I have heard of people who go in and turn the water on, run through the house, turn all the water on. It's one of the things you have to do when you're taking care of an empty home, and then go back and turn it all off. The probability of leaving a faucet or a shower head running in that scenario, running through and turning it on and then running back through to turn it off, is far away more likely to happen than if you do it the way we do it, where we do one room at a time and make sure everything is shut off. And I've heard horror stories of people who have done it that way, the runaround way, and then had to change over to our way because it's just the liability is enormous, right? So what's the process? My process is one room at a time, make sure everything's done before you move on to the next one. And then you can do a final walkthrough if you want to, just to make sure everything is copacetic. But you do not run through the house and then run through it again. That is a recipe for disaster. A procedure avoids that. So I had somebody who called me and said, hey, we had this problem. We left the water on and there was some flooding, and I'm worried about the liability. And so we went through how to fix that. And it all comes down to process. All of it comes down to process. Everything comes down to process. People are inherently good and they want to do a good job. So you have to give them the process for doing it.
Is it a bit like just, you're putting a little bit of a training wheels on their bike so that, they can wobble, but they're not going to fall down?
Weebles wobble and they don't.
Well, I'm just saying, if you have somebody trying to learn to ride a bike and, they might falter one way or the other, but because of the support, in other words, the policy procedure, it's not going to be a disaster because they did follow the wall. They did one room at a time. They didn't come back the next time and there's water running down the driveway because they did run through and then run out. And
I would have to hurt somebody if that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why we have these policies and procedures, right? You want to make sure that people can be the most successful possible, right? That's what you're looking for. You're trying to give people an opportunity to succeed by not setting expectations, by not telling them how you want things done, by not formalizing your policies and procedures within your company. Their opportunity or their probability of failure is very, very high. Because they don't know what they're supposed to do. Yeah. We were talking in the last episode about the restaurant you went to, and the table settings were all askew, right? Or missing or whatever. That's not a hard thing to fix. Mm-mm. And that person obviously the likelihood is they did not understand how to set a table. I mean, I know there's people, they can't make change.
Yeah.
Or can't tell time because they've only had digital. So there's, right. So you have to teach people. There's people that can't read cursive, if you can believe that. So you have to teach people what you expect and how you want them to perform so they have the highest chance of being successful. That's how I look at it. I want people to be successful. I want people to build good businesses. I want them to enjoy being independently employed. I've had a lot of people, not that were clients of mine, but I've heard of people who gave up and went back to a W-2 job simply because the stress of trying to build a business became overwhelming. And they had this vision in their head of what was being a business owner was. And it can be that, whatever that vision is, it can be that. But you have to follow certain protocol in order to achieve that. And more than anything, you have to be tenacious and keep putting one foot in front of the other. And part of that is building your processes.
Would you have just this gut feeling of an average local business? If you looked at, let's say, the Coachella Valley we're at in the Palm Springs metro area, how many of those businesses out there are operating probably without policies and procedures?
Almost all of them. Almost all of them.
Wow.
I would say, because especially in Palm Desert, the valley is built on the back of small businesses, small business owners, mom and pop shops. All of us are mom and pop shops, most of us, right?
Yep.
And so, other than like banks and hospitals who more than likely have policies and procedures, these mom and pop shops don't have them. And it was when I first came here to do business 20 years ago, I was struck by the lack of business acumen and business savvy. I'm still getting um, cell phone pictures of receipt books as an invoice for my vendors. Some of them. Some of
Wow.
them don't do email. Can you imagine in 2025 that they don't have at least a financial system to track whether they're profitable or not?
That's
And they
insane.
and they can't do an invoice? I mean, it blows my mind. And so out here there's lots of good people, and they have good work ethics and they mean well, but they don't have the understanding of how to run a business. And I wish I could get to them and help them. I wish I could do that. But part of the issue with people who don't have business acumen is that they don't see the value of education and training when they run their own business, especially if they're running a fairly financially successful business. They may have problems, they may have unhappy clients, but the work keeps coming in and they keep making money. And so they don't consider investing in continuing education to be of value to them. And,
Yeah.
and nothing is further from the truth.
Yeah, it's almost like that surfer. They're just waiting to ride that next wave, but they can't make the wave. And it feels like with policy and procedures, you're in control of the wave and you know how to ride the wave. And one of the things I've always, I would say, pride myself on is not having those ups and downs in my business. And I think that's because of policies and procedures that, hey, there's a consistency there. This is hard mentally and financially to manage, especially
Right.
if you have staff. If you're on your own, you can do that because you can freak out on your own in your bedroom at night because you're in one of those, troughs.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it seems like the policies and procedures help level that out. I had a conversation with a client just yesterday who was saying, well, now our business, because it's seasonal, it's dropped off a little bit. And I said, wait, wait, whoa, whoa, whoa. I said, we're in the internet age.
Yeah.
There's no
There's no
such
such
thing as
thing here.
seasonality. Now you have access to
Right.
billions of people, and while all billions of them are not your ideal customer, there's enough in there to forego the seasonality. And it was a mindset shift for them. So that's kind of a neat process to see that. I saw his eyes light like, oh, you're right.
Right.
With telemedicine, which he's in the medical field with telemedicine, and he does this. There's no reason why he can't have clients all over the place.
Well, and if you think about it, we make our living off of snowbirds primarily, right? All of us. So people live in other parts of the country and Canada mostly. So if you market into Washington, for example, or you market into Ohio, or you market into Minneapolis, we have lots of people from those areas.
Hmm.
Vancouver, right? Whistler.
Yeah.
Um, all kinds of places. If you market to those people when they're in town, they're going to give you, excuse me, a lot more business, right? They may even give it to you off season
Yeah.
because they need you to do this or that while they're not here or before they come back into town. So you're right. With the internet age, our 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 marketing and our business has become multi city, I guess, multi geographical. It doesn't really matter where you are. I have somebody who manages my marketing for the educational program in South Africa, right? And I have somebody who helps with my internet posts that's in Washington State, and my accountant is in Idaho. And so, and my IT person is in I don't know if it's Massachusetts or one of those little New England states back there, is back there. So I'm all over the place. My help, and you have international help. You have people coming from India and Bangladesh, or is that in India?
Yep.
Bangladesh. Oh,
Bangladesh. Yep.
and from
Saudi
all
Arabia.
yeah, everywhere.
Yep.
So these days the world is very small, and if you limit yourself to think that you only want to promote your business or uh, do your marketing to just your geographic area, you're going to miss out.
I agree. I agree. Well, let's go to the next question because I think it's a good
Okay.
one. You've worked with many personalities and leadership styles.
Yeah.
How do you adapt your organizational strategy to fit that unique DNA of each business?
Know your audience, right? That's a fact. You do have to temper your style to the people who you're dealing with without compromising your own integrity, and that can be a challenge. I'll tell you a story about this real quick before I 100% answer the question. I was applying for a job interview at a company that an aerospace company, way that's a whole lifetime ago, and they had me interview with 10 different executive staff members. Remember when they used to do that, make you interview with all the different people? And I found my personality morphing to mirror the personality of the person sitting across the desk from me, not in a way that compromised my integrity, but in a way that um, the word I'm thinking of is flattering, but I don't know if that's exactly the correct word, but in a way that made them feel comfortable with me and establish a relationship with them. If they were silly and enthusiastic, I was silly and enthusiastic. If they were quiet and reserved and very staunchy in their approach, I calmed myself down and talked in a more measured manner. And I did well with all 10 of them, but you have to know your audience. And so when you're doing business, I'll give you another example. When I worked in aerospace, I worked primarily with men, all with men. You learn to swear like a longshoreman, and you want to be one of the boys, and um, you just act and behave differently when you're working with all men. In executive errands, I work primarily with women. So I found that I had to completely change my approach and my leadership style to market and work with the female decision makers, which was eye-opening to say the least. And I stopped swearing. I'm not allowed to swear anymore. So you have to adapt your strategies to, I keep saying that there's only one way to run a business, and there is only one way to run a business. However, obviously, there are unique situations and procedures that will have to be adapted for the uniqueness of the company. Having said that, I would caution that you don't change the procedures and your strategies to match the way you're used to doing it. Change them to make them the most efficient and give you the best opportunity to create perception of value and to um, grow your business. Okay, because most people want to customize themselves into a corner and say, my business runs this way, I'm going to do it like this, I don't care what you say, this is how I'm going to do it, when there's so many better options out there. So you really want to um, you need somebody that's objective to look at it. That's where I come in, or you come in. You need somebody with an objective pair of eyes that are not vested in how we've always done it, that can give you ideas and strategies and even adapt personalities if you have to, in order to build a business that is going to be well received. And I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, I think you nailed it right there when you said, to me, it's always a clue. And I said, well, why have you done it this way? Well, it's the way we've always done it. So they're not even aware of the possibilities. And what I try to do is, and I'm sure you're the same way, is you go with a little TLC, because what happens, it's like if you had somebody from the 1920s show up here today, it would blow their mind of what you know that we can communicate with anybody around the world with this little box. We can ask questions. It's just amazing. That's just one thing, right? And so a lot of times I will do it a little bit more gently than, well, this is just, we have to make this change if you want to grow. And I think you said it earlier, maybe even on the last program. It's like you have to build the reason why you're making that change. You have to get them to understand the value behind it before you implement it, or it's another one of those things where the boss said to do this.
Yeah, my favorite last resort comment to somebody when I was in consulting, if they were being really, really stubborn and refusing, I'm a change agent. That's what I do. I do a lot of things, but I like to be a change agent. I like to go in and make a difference and help you be as successful and efficient and profitable as possible, right? That's super important to me. But when I run up against somebody who is just completely resisting it and don't want to listen, then my last resort comment is, look, you're paying me for my opinion. I'm trying to tell you what is best for this situation. You don't have to do it.
Mm.
You don't have to do it. But this is what's going to happen if you don't. And I explain to them the impact and the repercussions of not affecting the change.
Mm.
And generally, if I can monetize that, then they pay much better attention. So it's a perfect example. I worked in this one company in Newark, New Jersey. Um, it was a place that made circuit breakers for nuclear submarines, of all things. Okay, and I was a consultant, but they put me in as the head of their operations group. And the people on the shop floor would come in, and they would clock in. It was an old time clock system. They would clock in, and then they would stand around, have coffee, and shoot the breeze and have a conversation for at least 15 minutes. And I went to the supervisor of that department and I said, well, you have to stop this. And he's like, oh, it's just, this is what they do in the morning. It's fine. It's not a big deal. So I said, okay. So I took how many people he had times 15 minutes times his overhead amount, which at that time was like $45 an hour. And I calculate up how much money they were wasting and losing for that 15 minutes of friendly conversation and not getting started right to work right away. Needless to say, that policy changed immediately. And the procedure went into effect that once you clock in, you go to work. Because when you put things in dollars and cents, people pay attention. And that's what happens. That's 15 minutes per person times your overhead rate. So if 15 minutes times $40 an hour is divided by 4 is $10 for every 15 minutes times however many people it was, right? It's crazy, right? That's crazy. So when I help businesses, that's kind of how I approach things, is to say, look, we've got to streamline this. And because it isn't just the employee understanding what the purpose is, what the input and output of their decisions are, and how to do their tasks. It's also about increasing the profitability of that business, right? And I don't care if you're 2 people or you're 2,000 people, you have to be able to increase the profitability or there's no point in doing it.
Well, it seems like, and this is from a psychology standpoint, is we will do more to avoid pain than we will to gain pleasure. So I like the way you put it into, this is what it's costing you. That's pain.
Right.
That as you're doing, I'm thinking, wow, that's probably a lot of cash.
It was a lot of
And
cash.
oh my gosh, oh my gosh. But it doesn't look like that because it's just such a little thing. 15 minutes. No, what's the big deal? Yeah, but you're multiplying that by 5 days a week times, let's say they had 50 employees or 100, whatever the number was. It's enormous.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
And in my business in executive variance, when we first started out, I only had one person in the beginning, but over time we grew. And when you're planning, remember I told you on the last episode that I didn't realize that we didn't have the street addresses on their
Mm,
planning documents, which slowed them way down, right?
yeah, yeah.
Just giving them the address increased their efficiency a lot. But then I put them in a sequence that made sense. I taught them not to plan their time in a star pattern. Do you know what a star pattern is?
Yeah.
Right. So it's like you start over here and then you go over, do this work, and then you go over here, then you go back up here, then you go back down here. That is so inefficient. And
Uh,
so I taught them to make a circle instead. or a square or whatever, but like a continuous line so that they're being efficient with their time and their driving and all of that. It's the same with, again, I lost my train of thought. The star pattern. You don't want to work in a star pattern. It'll come back to me eventually. It's like, I think it's UPS. I think it's UPS. I think they can quit their day at any time as long as they deliver whatever packages they had for their route. And I believe, and I could be wrong on this, but I believe their process is to only make right-hand turns.
Yes.
So
I've heard that.
So that when they're planning their delivery route, they plan it in such a way that they only have to make right-hand turns because they're way more efficient and faster. Versus if you have to wait to make a left and wait for the traffic or wait for the turn or whatever. So right-hand turns only. See, there's things like that people never think about.
Yeah.
Right. But that's a process and a procedure. It's a policy and a procedure that improves efficiency painlessly. Right. You just have to plan your route so that you only make right-hand turns. And it becomes second nature. You don't even think about it after a while. Once you're familiar with your work area, it goes really easily. So I taught the same thing with my people, but I called it don't plan in a star pattern.
Yeah, I
used to pay for mileage. So I wanted them to be as efficient in their driving as possible. Now they have company cars. So I noticed you saw one the other day.
I did. I was like, oh my gosh, that's a new company car. That's the first time I'd seen it on the road. Looked great.
It's pretty, isn't it?
It is.
So one of our clients said, gosh, I don't know what the name of your company is because it's all emblazoned on there so big.
That was great.
But now they have company cars. So we're not as concerned about mileage, but we're still concerned about efficiency because the time we work is the client time.
Yeah.
Right. So I need to be efficient and prudent with their time. And I tell that to potential new clients all the time. I don't make separate trips for stuff. I try to make it once a week as efficiently as I can. If you call and ask me to do something extra, I'll go, but it's going to cost you extra for that. And we don't want that. We're not here to exploit the time or stretch out the time. We're here to be as efficient and value added as possible. And that's how all businesses need to think. When you bill for time, in my case, if you're another company who bills for time, if you're a decorator, if you're an interior designer, if you're an architect, an engineer, anybody who bills for time, lawyers, the initial thought is, I want to maximize the amount of time. But in fact, you'll lose clients doing that because they don't want to be nickel and dimed. And you also want to make sure you have enough time to service all your clients, because if you're not efficient with your time, you can't grow in that aspect either. Right? I use this example all the time as well. Have you ever seen those little clocks at the drive-thru?
Yeah. Yes, I have. I have seen those clocks.
The little clocks when you're sitting at the window and it's ticking by and 30 seconds goes by. Do you know what the purpose of those clocks are?
No. Really,
you don't?
No, I do. Okay. Tell me.
It's to measure how long the car sits waiting for the food. And so the process is to move as many cars as possible, because the faster you move the cars through the drive-thru, the more money you make.
Okay.
So if any car sits there for more than 30 seconds, it's too long. Right. And so now you've got to look at the process. Oh, there's my car, our new car. I didn't know you took a picture of it. That's so
I did. Cool. I sent it to you in a text, but I think you were still out of the country at the time.
Probably.
So I thought that was really good.
They're so pretty. I love them.
Yeah.
I want to put that on my car now.
What are those? Those are Chevrolets?
Yeah, they're the Chevy. I
can't read it, but yeah, they're really sharp. I think it's the epitome of your business. It's just like sleek, and you've got room to carry things. And
they look like a baby version of my car.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
If you put it next to my car, it's not my car's a Mercedes, but it looks like the body style is the same as mine, but smaller. And so I like that, because most people are getting those Honda. What are those little square Honda things? I think or Kia, the Kia Soul. A lot of people are getting the Kia Soul, and I don't like to be with that like everybody else. So I got these. The price point was the same. So I got
You're
these
you're a
instead.
change agent.
I like to be different. I want to be noticed. I want people to say, I want to create that quality perception, right? So having a vehicle that's not like everybody else grabs attention, first of all. I gave them uh, membership for the car wash, so they keep those cars spotlessly
Mm,
clean. They don't have to pay for that. That gets cleaned every day practically. And we put a nice logos and stuff on them, so it's a quality perception,
that's
right?
great. Well,
Yeah,
I just had to share that. That's why I was being distracted because I was like, oh, I know I have that picture. So
yeah,
it looks
yeah.
really good.
I forgot what
Nice,
we were talking about, but
nice
yeah,
branding. That's
thank
okay.
you. Yeah, well, branding's important too. We'll talk about branding
Yeah.
sometime and your marketing collateral because all that matters. But um, what are three signs what a business urgently needs your help?
Even if
Well,
the owner doesn't realize it yet.
well, falling asleep at your desk is one of those things, like I used to do. I mean, what I work 2 days a week, I would work 36 hours in a row. Do you remember those days? Up 24
I
hours.
do remember, your stories of that. And, I would do something not quite like that. I would probably, say, okay, after I think I'm done working, I'd eat and I'd come back and work till like midnight in the early days. I still am a very early riser, but yeah, when you'd tell me you went 36 straight, I'm like, I'm done after, no, that's not going to work for me.
I used to tell myself interns do it all the time. If an intern can do it, I can do it. But the older I get, the harder that gets to do. And, and then the thing is that, so one of the things is somebody who's working too many hours.
Mm,
I honestly if I spend 4 hours a week on executive errands, it's a lot because everything is management by exception. I have reporting tools for everything. I have a new dashboard in our software that I can look and see instantly all the past due stuff because that's the stuff I'm focused on. What isn't getting done, right? And I can look at it in a matter of minutes and see where we're at and what we're doing. And my employees have that dashboard also, but only for themselves. I see everybody's.
mm,
So if I spend 4 hours a week in my business after I used to work 36 hours at a time, several times a week, that's a huge improvement. And so that's one indicator that somebody is working way too. In fact, I had a licensee, a potential licensee at the time. She is a licensee now, who said to me, I used to send emails at 2 a.m. I'm sure you've gotten them, right? From me,
yep. Yeah.
send them when I'm thinking about them. And she said, I got an email from you at 2 this morning. If I have to work that many hours, I don't want to do this business.
Oh,
And I didn't even realize the perception of that.
yeah.
So after that, if I do work at night, which does not happen very often, but if I do, I save them, I queue them up for in the morning and don't send them till the morning because I don't want anybody to think that that's the situation. So that's one. Two is having too many meetings.
Mhm.
If you are in a if you're doing an auto mechanic or you're doing a manufacturing job or you're in retail, I see a lot of people have, or my doctor's office, every Thursday they have a meeting, but it's only one, so that's not so bad. But if you're doing meetings all day long and especially at lunchtime, that's a huge indicator that a business needs my help. It's crazy. There's no reason for that. Let's see. So you said three. So one is too many meetings. Two would be working too many hours. And the third one would mean constantly having to do damage control. And by that, I mean making so many mistakes that a client is unhappy or you're losing business. Years ago, I went to a little what do you call it, conference. It was a really small conference, maybe 10 or 15 people for the lifestyle management industry. And there was a girl there who said she gets sued every week. And I said, what? And she goes, yeah, she doesn't have any way to contain her data. So they're constantly challenging her on what she did. And, in a business where you're selling time, which is the most valuable commodity, you're selling time, you have to have a way to A, justify the time, and B, have full transparency for the client so they feel comfortable that they're getting value for what you're doing. So if you don't have a data collection system, you don't have a way to track it that allows the client to see it clearly, then you're going to have problems. And she did. And I don't even know how you're still in business. If I was getting sued every week, I'd say this is not for me, So I would say having problems and having to constantly do damage control to try to salvage your relationships with your clients, that would be a huge indicator to me, because there's no reason for it in this day and age.
Yeah.
In my case, I built a software system to avoid that completely. But you have tools you use for the same purpose, and there's tools for different industries that are available. And so those would be the things that I would say. If you're watching this and you are working too many hours, or you're having trouble justifying the work that you do or the products that you sell, or you find that you're stuck doing non-productive things such as meetings and or worse, you don't even know if what you're doing is productive or not. How many times have we seen that?
Rowing in the wrong direction.
Oh my gosh. I have people do time studies for me all the time. It's like, okay, I want you to track everything you do for 3 days, every single thing from 8 to 5. Tell me what you're doing. I don't care if it's scrolling Pinterest for 15 minutes, write it down. Okay. I'm not judging. I need to know what you're doing, because so many of the tasks, entrepreneurs, I got the word.
Oh, look at that. First off.
Entrepreneurs. I'm getting better. I can't say that word very well, ladies and gentlemen. Entrepreneurs. So many of the tasks that you end up doing are not value add for your business and don't help you achieve your goals. So you've got to sift through the busyness and find the things that are truly value added. And that would be one of the things that I can help somebody with, is to sort through that, because we both know that it's easy to get caught up in busyness. You know what? You and I coach for you, right? And what is one of your things that you do that you need less of?
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing you. I didn't.
Static.
Some static.
No, but you love to learn new things.
Yeah.
You absolutely love it. And so you're always watching new podcasts or reading new books or going to new webinars. You're like an expert squared. I mean, you're so good. You don't really need, I understand needing to stay on the cutting edge of AI, but other than that, all the business stuff, you really know. And so you don't necessarily need to put as much effort into that as you do. And so I think it's admirable, but if it's cutting into time for other stuff, then it's not helpful.
And that has, here, not to turn this into my coaching session, but that has made a difference. I have noticed that, I don't spend as much time, going over and saying, okay, I need to consume, this 45-minute video on training or whatnot. It's like, I feel myself becoming more of and don't take this wrong, but a doer versus a learner. I'm applying it. And I used to always be that way, where I would say, hey, if I've learned, like when I was in real estate, I'd go to a seminar, and maybe I had 10 seminars I could go to. I said, I'm not going to go to that one until I've got this one done. And I'd made X number of dollars, or it's paid for itself 3 or 4 times over before I move on. That's what I would do. Well, I'd see people like they were just on the webinar wheel. And so that was an awareness for me. That was one of my, you didn't call it a time audit, but it felt like it, like, okay, yeah. And you know what? I drink my coffee faster and get into the day a little sooner because I'm not doing that. So it's good stuff.
Yeah. And we just said that most people won't invest in continuing education, right? And that's a problem, but you can also overinvest in it. If it becomes a distraction, you know what is a distraction for me is the games on my phone. I have like 5 of them that I do every day, right? In the morning to keep my brain semi-sharp. And then I should put it away, but I don't. I keep playing. And they don't let you see the time, the clock. You can't see it when you're playing these games. And so it's like being in a casino with no windows. All of a sudden, all your time and your money is gone,
Yeah.
So actually I was teaching myself craps this morning.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Well, my husband likes it. And every time we go, like there's a casino on the ship. And so it's like, I'm down there looking at this table and I don't understand anything about it. So I asked AI this morning, teach me craps. and it taught it to me, and I understand it. So I'm going to go try it one of these days and see if it works. But that's not the game on my phone. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking about deleting them all and just saying no more phone, because it is a huge distraction for me.
Well, it sounds like it's something like, we shouldn't take the pleasures of life away from us when we have the ability. I think it's always good to have a little rest so you can get back in the game. And some of that is just, like as an example, most of my time every day is spent in this kind of fashion. I'm working on the computer, and I do it in isolation, even with my staff, because they're worldwide. Is I will purposely say, I'm leaving the house, or I'm leaving my home office for lunch. I'm leaving and going outside just to get some fresh air. I may not spend lunch with anybody, but it's that break. Well, you can do the same thing with your games, but I would say put a timer on it.
Yeah.
An outside timer that you can see, hey, I'm going to do this for 15 minutes. That's it. Or 10 minutes. This is it. And when it goes off, I'm done. No matter where I'm at, just going to stop.
It's really
So,
funny that you say that, because I worked at one company that built satellite tracking and imaging systems. And if that sounds like gobbledygook, it's the same kind. I built the system that does Google Earth.
mm, okay.
I built the antenna that does that.
Wow. Wow.
So, and I've got one on Diego Garcia, and I've got one in Sweden and all these places. So I am a workaholic, obviously. So I used to work at my lunch at my desk. And when you have your lunch at your desk, you work all the time. You don't stop working. You just eat unconsciously, but you don't stop working. So I started to make it a habit of do exactly what you're doing. I would leave the facility for lunch. I may go sit in my car. I may go down to Walmart, or in those days it was Kmart. I may, which Kmart doesn't even exist anymore, I don't
No.
think. I would go with a friend and have lunch, but I would go out and just stop what I was doing and take that breather. And it's amazing how much better focused you can be in the afternoon when you take that little break.
Yeah.
So you're doing a good thing, I think.
Well, as we come to the end of this part 2 and 10 questions that I wanted to ask you, this is the final question. And I think it's called the coup de grace.
The coup de grace.
Yeah. If you could leave every business owner listening with one piece of advice about systems, structures, or policy development, what would that be?
Well, that's pretty easy. Implement any of those that are not redundant. Strive for efficiency and management by exception. And you want to be as efficient as possible, because that's how you get your profit margins up. And so, redundancy is a killer of business. So avoid redundancy. If you're not sure if you're being redundant in something, call me and I will tell you right away. One thing about me is I don't coddle anybody, as you know. I'm not a good coddler, but I will help you be better for sure. So if you appreciate a straight approach, and you think you're doing redundant services, then we need to take a look at what you're doing, because that's not the way to run a business.
Leslie, this has been great. And we've been talking about how policies, procedures, and organization are pillars of the success for your business. And all businesses are the same. If you get these in place, it is a foundation of your business. And let's face it, when you have a strong foundation, it allows you to grow many floors, not just one, and it'll withstand. It's almost like the big bad wolf and the three little pigs. You can either build it on straw, sand, or you can build brick. And when you have organization, policies, and procedures, you've got a brick. I'll leave it. I won't. You have a brick house that will sustain the weather of changing climates and conditions. So, Leslie, this has been great. I really appreciate it. Before we let you go, though, tell us a little bit about your program that you offer to help businesses.
Well, yeah, I developed this program. It's 50 videos, approximately 50 videos, 40 some videos, called Freedom by Design: How to Build a Business That Runs Itself or Runs Without You, or something like that. I don't remember what the subline is, but Freedom by Design. And this is all business fundamentals. It does not matter what business you have. I don't care if you're doing widgets. I don't care if you're doing service. I don't care if you're doing retail or manufacturing. It doesn't matter. There is one path through a business, And this is going to give you all of the fundamentals you need to be successful without tripping and falling and spending unnecessary money and getting all banged up and bruised and disillusioned with your business. We all, those of us who go out to start a business on our own, do it because there's a variety of reasons, but most of us do it because we want the autonomy, the independence, and we want to create something. You know, building a business is a creation. It's like having a baby. You've created something out of nothing, and there's trials and tribulations along the way. You know, when you have a kid, you just want to keep it alive. I mean, that's the purpose of the first year of a baby's life. And it's scary. How am I going to keep this thing alive? Well, it's the same with the business. You need to keep it alive as well. And if you start hiring people, you have to keep them busy. And so it can be quite intimidating. And there is no reason to reinvent the wheel. So if you take a look at this program, and you'll see that it covers everything a business owner needs to know, even if you've been in business for a long time, because things change. You know, technology changes. The foundation and the industry benchmarks of building a business are the same. They have been for 50 years or more. But there's still other techniques and shortcuts and efficiency things that you can do that will make it a lot easier for you. So please take a look at this, sign up for it. You can work at your leisure. You'll get a certificate when you're finished, and avoid the common pitfalls of trying to start your own business or building a business.
Well, one of the things that I want to throw out there, because it's always nice to have someone in your corner rooting for you, you not only offer this program that I can learn on my own at my own pace, but you also have a support system. You have a community, don't you?
Yeah, I have a Facebook page. It's a private Facebook community that is like a mastermind group where we share across all the different people that are in it. Plus, I post things in there and put in newsletters and webinars and things that you can learn from. If you go to my YouTube channel or your YouTube channel, there's plenty of videos on there of free information that you can get. We've been doing videos together for a very long time, and I'm so excited that we're doing this podcast because it's so much fun, and we're able to get a lot of information out there. I don't know if we have any subscribers. I hope we do. I'm trusting your content generator or whatever it is that you use to build that 10,000 viewer base. I would like to see that. But there's plenty of free content from us, and you have all these podcasts. What are we up to now? How many have we done so far?
21, 22, something like that.
22 podcasts, and we only figured out how to get my face as big as yours today. That's pretty good.
Are you saying I have a big head?
No, I'm saying the view of me was too far away, so this is better. Of course, you can see my messy desk worse. You have a thing behind you. Don't go far away. That's silly. I want to see your real office. I don't want to see like a fake office.
No, that's right there. That's where Jim sits, and over here is where Judy sits, and then our lunchroom is right back here.
He's so full of it. Don't listen to him. He works out of his house just like I do. Don't.
All right, here we go. You've been joining us on the Twisted, Bent, Exhausted Entrepreneur podcast. This is part 2 of the program we were talking about, which is all about policies, procedures, and organizations and how you can use them as a foundation for your business. And the one thing that I'm just going to end with is I was shocked when you said most small businesses in our environment, in our city, but it's probably true across the land, wherever you're at, don't have policies and procedures and aren't organized. And yet they're running what we might see as a pretty successful business, but they might be like that guy trying to catch knives and he's got 4 or 5 knives in the air.
Yeah, true.
There's answers for that. So keep that in mind. Leslie, any last thoughts before we let you go today?
If you are watching this podcast, and I assume you are because we're talking to you, and you have a question about a specific topic, put it down, write it down to us down there, and we'll address it in another podcast. So we want to give you the information you need. So feel free to make suggestions.
A little AMA, ask us anything. That's I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, Leslie, thank you again. I really appreciate it. We'll see you again on Twisted Bent, the Twisted Bent and Exhausted Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm Jeff Harrison. Have a great day wherever you're at.
And I'm Leslie Spoor, and we are here at your convenience.